What is up, guys? It's Flash, back with some more charts and another video. It's Saturday, June 7, about 3:27 p.m. Eastern. We got a rainy day up here in New England. I'm not sure about you guys, but it's just been raining like every weekend for the last 10 weeks straight. It's kind of crazy, but it gives me a good opportunity to, again, zoom out, look at the charts, and I think I've put together some pretty bullish charts today that I want to share with you guys. This is not financial advice. This is more so financial entertainment. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where this is going, but this is just my perspective, looking at the charts, looking at the data, studying the power law. I've probably put more than 1,000 hours into studying Bitcoin and MSTR, and that's not a brag per se, but I think I've put a lot of good time in, and I think I have a unique perspective to some extent. So just want to share this with you guys. We're going to start out on Bitcoin. This is the daily time frame. We got a 77 score out of 100 in terms of if we're near the top or overheated per se. Again, that's thanks to Colin Talks Crypto and his cbbi.info.com or something like that. But that's where you can find that metric. It's just pretty much a metric that gathers a bunch of indicators and determines in one simple number how overheated we are with Bitcoin. So again, really looks good. I try to get like 2 videos out per week for you guys. I want to let kind of price action do its thing. And especially with the M2 offsets, it's more so an average, not necessarily a day-by-day thing is what I'm gathering. So when we look at M2 pushed forward by 95 days, the highest percentage that I've been finding on that short average, that 30, 60, 90 average, is about 71.3%. So, we've definitely lost some correlation, especially in the last 30 days. But you can see here in the 60 days, it's still holding up pretty good as well as 90 days. So again, I don't necessarily want to match this up day for day. I think it's best to do it on an average. This really kind of flows nicely right here. Again, not lined up perfectly. You can manipulate it to look better or look worse, but I think this kind of catches my eye a little bit. And so, I do think we're kind of right in line. We're right where we need to be in terms of following the M2, if this is going to continue to play out or not. If we want to also overlay gold, this is a 91-day offset. So gold pushed forward by 91 days. Again, pretty strong correlation the last 60 days, the last 90 days. Again, slight deviation the last 30 days. But again, just looking at that average, not much has changed. We're right where we need to be. And it looks like we have some liquidity coming, very, very soon. I know I said that last week. Maybe it's going to be this week. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, right? But when we look at both of them side by side, this is just up and to the right. So I'm not worried at all. This is going to continue to follow, I think. And now let's just look at Bitcoin a little bit more zoomed in, right? So I've had this channel on my chart for quite some time. This kind of looked like a head and shoulders, right? But head and shoulders, they don't necessarily have to break to the downside all the time. They're really just consolidation patterns, in my opinion. And so we kind of swept these lows down here and then shot immediately back up. And we're breaking out of this now, what I would consider as a bull flag. And so I've also there's another channel on here that I've identified, as I'm sure others have. But this is a little bit more, steeper. So if we just go back to this one, a little bit steeper, right? And so this brings us up to, 130K, 140K, by middle of July into August, maybe 150 if we stay in this channel. So that's pretty good. And then this is something I've seen Leo Hart do, and Leo is the guy behind this rainbow wave indicator. But we have our big consolidations. I'm honestly looking for a big extended fifth wave here, as Kush likes to talk about. And so, if we stay in this channel, obviously no promises. I think we could honestly break it to the upside because we kind of did that back here. But I'm kind of looking to see if I can match some early lines up here to get one last domed consolidation here before, the end of this move, right? So I have a target up here. It's about, 230, 240, 250K. I think that's pretty reasonable. Again, but if the liquidity cycle extends, if the business cycle extends into, Q1, Q2 of 2026, we could honestly be going much higher, right? But again, I don't know. Don't have a crystal ball, but I know that this is sniffing out liquidity and the business cycle stuff. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's progress here. So that's Bitcoin, right? That's how good Bitcoin looks in my opinion. This is MSTR measured in Bitcoin, right? So this is a big picture the last, almost 7 or 8 years, right? But big, rounded bottom consolidation here. This looks like it could be a Wyckoff accumulation. But I think if you also turn it on its head, this could be a distribution as well. Again, I don't know, but we kind of swept the highs up here, and if we fall out of this channel, then we're not going to be MSTR is not going to be outperforming Bitcoin. But if we break out and we stay in these orange channels, then we're going to be outperforming Bitcoin, which I think is the goal. I think that's what everyone wants to do here, obviously. And so if we just zoom into the upper right-hand corner here of this image, this is where we're at right now with MSTR measured in Bitcoin, right? Dropped off the table here. We held support in this bowl, in this channel, and we're kind of flagging here in the last couple trading sessions. This looks like it has some energy. It wants to kind of push up. So another look and feel of this, something I've been fooling around with, is this indicator is the distance percentage from the 30 period moving average. And again, the moving average isn't displayed on the screen here, but you can kind of get a sense. This is kind of like RSI. It's kind of a judge of momentum. Down here in this pane, these are like what price is doing. It's doing consolidations measured within the moving average, the distance from the moving average, right? So it's a completely different way of thinking about it. But you can see, like, okay, if there's some good downtrends here, we break out, that's momentum is going to the upside. That allows price to really explode up, right? And then there was a consolidation here. We lost that momentum, back in late November of 2024. And that, made price lose that momentum and lose steam here. And now we're rounding out, trying to get momentum back. And we have some lines here that we're going to need to break out of if we want to make this run. Now, we're not overheated, right? Overheated over here because we were 40, 50, 60% above the moving average. Here we were 40% above the moving average, right? This number right here. So we're not overheated. We have room to run. That's pretty much the gist of what I'm trying to get at here. And then another look and feel, like I've seen some people calling for, this could be a B wave up here, and we're making a C. We're going to make a lower low. Again, very well possible, very well could do that. I think that it looks very similar to what we also did back here. This also looks kind of like a bear flag, right? But we actually exploded to the upside. So again, I'm not sure if that's going to happen this time or not. I sure would like it to. But we may have some more work to do down here, kind of like we did back in August, September of 2024. So we may kind of go sideways against Bitcoin. We may just keep up with Bitcoin and then explode. So I'm not sure yet, but here's where I think it gets super interesting, guys. So, okay, back to the rainbow wave, back to Bitcoin. Now the pink or purple line is MSTR. It's not pushed forward. It's just the current price of MSTR. And I tried to, overlay it as best I could. I tried to match it up as best I could, right? It likes to outperform in these blow off tops. So if we go to 250K, for example, Bitcoin, and MSTR, that would put MSTR up here around like $2,000, $1,800. And I think, if it's a blow off tops type scenario, it's going to peak, it's going to outperform it at the very end, I think. So that opens up the door for maybe 3,000, maybe up here. Again, if this extends into 2026, this is going to be absolutely nuts, right? So I just thought this is a super interesting chart to look at, like price of MSTR over here on the left-hand side, price of Bitcoin over here on the right-hand side. Okay, so here's MicroStrategist's ballistic acceleration model. You guys know that I live and die by this thing right now. And again, these are just the prices of MSTR, the green dots, and the white line is the price of Bitcoin, right? So there's a clear trend here. There's a clear pattern here. As MSTR accumulates more Bitcoin, it's going to be correlated to the price for some extent, right? So I'm not going to get into all the math behind it. I'll let Marty Kendall do that in his blog posts. This is a must-have in the toolkit, in the arsenal. But you can see here, we're undervalued right now by 17%. We're at a price of 374. The model thinks we should be at 451. And at a BTC price of 150K, you're at an 1100 MSTR price again. So we're a little bit undervalued right now. I think if we do kind of start working to the upside, if we start outperforming Bitcoin, we're eventually going to be overvalued in the model, right? So this is going to swing drastically to the upside, and we should start seeing some green dots above this white line, right? Similar to how we were back here. And so that brings me to this chart. I mean, I think this is a parabola, right? You can find this in the Bitcoin chart as well. But you take those price targets with MicroStrategist ballistic model, $1,100 for a Bitcoin price of 150K, and 200, 250, 300, 400K Bitcoin, you get these insane prices for MSTR, right? This is much bigger than any daily price movements, right? And any daily narratives or what have you, right? So I think we're in a parabola, and I think this is going to keep going, right? Especially if we go into 2026, nothing stops this train. It's insane. Okay, so you guys know I've been trying to find this channel, right? I've been looking at liquidity, looking at gold. If we're going to ride up this parabola, I think we literally have to kind of go vertical, right? It's the math. If Bitcoin's going to go up and do this, MSTR is going to continue. It has this correlation to it, right? And so let's overlay M2 with all this in mind, where we're at with that parabola. Like the overlay, we have definitely deviated from M2, right, in the last 30 days. Last 60 days, we're still hanging in there. Last 90 days, we're still hanging in there. That drops down the 30, 60, 90-day average, right? But I do think this is going to snap. This is going to snap back to the upside. And I don't want to be spreading this bullish narrative and this guy's just always a bull. And, I don't want to be that guy. But I am trying to just present to you guys a perspective where, this could surprise people to the upside, I think, right? So let's also overlay gold, right? Stronger correlation for sure. A slight deviation in the last 30 days. You can see gold has this dip here. We're also dipping. So again, this is kind of pointing to as soon as maybe next week, we can just start rocketing. Because I do think Bitcoin is going to continue higher. And you go back to that channel on Bitcoin, we could go aggressively to the upside very quickly on Bitcoin. And again, you have to think MSTR is going to follow suit. Here's both of the overlays, M2 and gold. Again, it's not a perfect overlay, guys. I'm trying to do my best here. But I do think this could start surprising people. And again, I could be right or wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. It's just kind of looking at the charts, looking at lines on a chart. And so if we continue zooming in here, again, this liquidity took a dip, gold took a dip, and then they both blasted to the upside. So I am looking for a very aggressive price movement, this channel, right? I do think this could be the low. I know I've been saying that for a couple days, couple of my previous videos, but I'm ready for it to go. And you know what? It's because I'm biased, right? I'm totally biased. I do want this thing to rocket, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I just think, we're on this parabola. I think this makes sense. So that's the video, guys. Again, just a perspective. Don't want to, I think we're going to outperform Bitcoin pretty soon. Big picture MSTR against Bitcoin looks good. Bitcoin's look at this chart. Bitcoin could just blow minds here. So drop me a like if you guys found this helpful. I kind of went on a rant there. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon.